Good day, YouTube. How are you doing? Welcome to Things to Say with Kevin J. Today is my first long form video, and I'm going to talk about a topic that's been on my mind for a minute now. It's a pleasure being here. And the topic I'm talking about today is measuring fulfillment and navigating the impact of social media influencers. As we can see today, the ubiquity of social media influencers in our life is very much pronounced. And I've seen where many people are using these influencers to determine their every step in life. Now, I want to talk about that because it's very, it can be very problematic. And I think that I can give my views on it and we can talk about it in the discussion later on. Now, I'm no expert. So, one of the things I'm going to do is to define what fulfillment is or look up what a definition of it is and talk about the role of social media in influencing our lives. All right, so I typed in what is fulfillment in life just for us to get some context here. Because the word fulfillment could mean several other things. So let's see what we find here. Let me scroll down a little bit. What is a fulfilling life? What constitutes a fulfilling life? All right, so let's go by this. Fulfillment is the process of living a valid life where one pursues the things that matter to them or that they are passionate about. And this is a quote by Dr. Barbara. All right, this is pretty good. So let's work with this one. Now, if we were to go by that definition, as you can see, fulfillment is a very subjective concept. It varies from person to person. So the main thing for you to do as an individual is to make sure that you have an idea of the things that are important to you, the things that you value, your goals in life, what constitutes success, what constitutes being a part of something, because these are some of the elements that will help you to determine if you are living a fulfilled life. And also, you have to know what are the things that you need as an individual to feel fulfilled. So, the thing is, what's happening with social media is that people are choosing what makes them happy instead of looking at long term fulfillment. And this is very important because the feeling of happiness is never going to last for anyone. Now, if you're in a sad state or if you're going through a rough time, it is very different when you are living a fulfilled life because you know you're working towards a particular goal or there are certain elements in your life that are active, and even when you're going through your rough patch, you feel fulfilled. You might not be happy at that time, but you feel fulfilled because you know that all of the things that you're going through is because you're working towards those goals and those values. So that will make a great difference. Now, the thing is with social media and social influencers, if you try to use their standards without looking at those values or the things that you value most, the people in your life, the situation that you have to deal with, then that might become a problem. So that's why I'm here today to kind of talk about how social media plays into all of this and the things that can happen, and also look at some of the steps that we can take to really make sure that we know what a fulfilling life is. There's also an illusion of perfection because social media influencers, they often give an idealized version of their lives, which is curated to push a particular message. Now, to be fair, they have to do that in order to get to the point quickly. And they also have to drive their message because that's how they're going to get your attention and so on. So while I'm saying this is not to knock social media influencers, because I'm a part of social media as well. It's just to say that for you as the audience, you want to make sure that you're mindful of that and take the good parts and know that your life, you have to apply the good parts to how it affects your life. And what happens with people who don't do this is that they end up comparing themselves to this curated version, which is absent of the fact that there are obstacles and it's not as easy. And you're looking at the results and comparing it with your whole life. Now, there's struggle involved in getting to certain places. There are obstacles involved. So we all have to bear that in mind. Now, this can have a psychological impact because if you are comparing yourself to an idealized situation or an ideal situation, then you are not in a fair position. You're not being fair to yourself. So we don't want that because your feeling of self-worth will be affected definitely, and it will also hinder you from getting to places that you want to go to. Now, another thing that we need to look at is that social media influencers, they're also limited because they have to curate in some way because as I said, they don't have much time. And what you have is that it might not be authentic, so the authenticity of a fulfilling life is much different than the curated images that are projected on social media. An authentic life involves the struggles and the lows also, not just the highs. It involves the actual process of going through it, the discipline involved, not just feeling motivated, but just getting out there, even if you feel down, doing what needs to be done. And although there are people who talk about this, going through it is way different than actually listening to someone saying, well, there are going to be highs and lows. So have that expectation, because if you don't, then what's going to happen is, as I said, a psychological impact where it will affect your feeling of self-worth and feel like you are underaccomplished because you're comparing the results of what you're seeing. And also, you don't have to be exactly what somebody says they're being successful by doing. You have to know what what goals you want for yourself, what you value in your life. So you have to think about these things, and this will definitely help you to not get lost in trying to live up to somebody else's standards and somebody else's values. Now, we do have similar values. However, your life is specific to you, and you always have to remember that and bear that in mind. If I were to go down a checklist of some of the things that you want to look out for to determine if you have a fulfilling life, it would be, having meaningful relationships, having a passion and the desire for growth, having great relationships with people, contribution to the community and society, and also taking care of your mental and physical well being. Now, when I say meaningful relationships, we're talking about how people in your smaller circle relate to you and how you relate to them. Do they respect you? Do you have a mutual respect for them? Is there conflict and conflict resolution? How you approach those? uh, Pursuing your passions, meaning that if you have goals in life, you will have the desire to achieve these goals. And if you are achieving them, even if it's step by step, you will definitely have a fulfilling experience. Physical and mental well being, taking care of that is very essential because if your mind is not fit, also if your body is not fit, then you won't be able to pursue any kind of passion, you won't have any drive. So, all of those things are important. One of the things I think is helpful in making sure that you are taking stock of the effect of social media and social media influencers on your life is to take some time off, take a break from social media every now and then. And what you can do is make sure that you're spending time with people in your immediate physical area, making sure that you're taking time to reach out, make a phone call to someone. Do not spend, you know, continued hours on social media. You know, taking these breaks will definitely help you to make sure that you are checking the realistic section of your life. So we're gonna continue to talk about some more things, and I'm gonna finish up because I don't wanna drag this out too much as my first video. There's a thin line between, you know, being ambitious and setting realistic expectations. We often hear the sky is the limit or there's no limit. However, to be realistic, there will always be limitations, there will always be constraints. What I do is look at the short term goals and long term goals. If your long term goal is to be a millionaire, then you can have short term goals which will grow into get into that long term goal. So the setting of realistic expectation looks something like that. You want to make sure that you are aware of your current limitations, and so you have a strategic goal, which is a long-term goal that you're working towards. However, there are smaller goals that lead to that. You know, it's not always picture perfect, and there will always be setbacks. So that's a part of growth, you know, and something that is very important here is that the millionaires and most of them that make it from the bottom up, they have a certain character. And this character, guys, is born out of the different setbacks and the different obstacles that they have had to navigate through. So, what I do and what I'd encourage you all to do is to try to look at that as your growth phase. You know, when you're going through these obstacles that seem impossible, you know, just laugh and go through it, you know, enjoy the process, pay attention, watch yourself and see what you're doing, try to improve, you know, at least 1% every day. You know, setting achievable goals is something that is very important. Embrace your imperfections and know that, you know, these imperfections are going to be what make you unique. There's nobody that's perfect, you know. Even people who have, you know, achieved major milestones, they still have work to do personally and also have other goals that they're trying to get to. Another thing that I think is important is to build offline connections. And say, for example, you're trying to grow in the professional space, you know, you have over 2,000 connections on LinkedIn and Facebook. However, you have never spoken to this person or that person face to face. It's really different, you know. Go to the conferences, physically go there and talk to people, and you'll see the difference. People want to share things about themselves, and they feel better when they're in an environment that they can actually see and talk to you and get the response in real time. Now, apart from using technology and Zoom, going to a place to meet up physically, sharing meals, sharing a drink, it's very meaningful, it's more intimate, and so you'll form better connections. So the offline connections is something that's very strong. It can definitely help you to get to that point, that feeling of fulfillment that you wouldn't otherwise get if you're strictly online. Now, another thing that you need to do, which also requires that you're somewhat offline, is self reflection. You need to regularly reflect on your own life and pay attention to what's happening. A lot of times we get caught up on, you know, this standard that, you know, somebody that you follow, and you fail to really, you know, we might fail to really take a step back and look at what's going on in our own lives. and everything is being destroyed while you're caught up trying to get to this type of life that someone else is talking about. So, what I suggest is to really consider what truly makes you feel fulfilled. So, to conclude, some of the things that we discussed earlier is, the impact of social media, how pervasive it is. We talked about the roles of influencers, the illusion of perfection. Also we talked about authenticity versus an idealistic life, which the social media influencer might be portraying. We also went through my fulfillment checklist. I hope you find value from that. And also to take a detox from social media and build connections offline. Now, I hope that this was valuable, and I encourage you to go into that comment box and let's get this discussion going. This is my first long form video, and I hope that I'm able to, at least start a conversation, and I look forward to bringing more myself and Kevin. So stay tuned. Don't forget to like, share, and if you're not subscribed yet, hit that subscribe button and the notification bell so that whenever either of us put out content, you're the first to know. I look forward to seeing you again in the next one.